Okay, it looks like I'm live. Uh, well, before I provide birthday greetings to Bernie Sanders, if I sound kind of slur, I just came back from the dentist, had a tooth extraction. It doesn't hurt, but I'm numb and I am a little concerned I sound weird. So I'm just telling you know, if I sound weird in advance, that's just an explanation. What a way to give a birthday greeting. Okay, happy birthday to Bernie Sanders, U.S. Senator from Vermont, highest elected Democratic Socialist in the United States, two-time presidential candidate, and in the early 21st century, America's conscience. Bernie Sanders, as we all know, is known as an independent. He is an independent. He's a Democratic Socialist, and that is very unusual here in the United States. Breaking through the two-party system, outside the two-party system, and doing it by embracing a terminology that is not considered part of the normal part of the political culture in the United States. Well, his political upbringing is he got basically aware during the civil rights movement in the 60s. In college, he became a socialist when he earned his bachelor's degree in political science at the University of Chicago. And in Chicago, he joined the Young People's Socialist League, which was then the youth section for the old Socialist Party of America. After college, he moved to Israel and lived in a kibbutz, in participating in that socialist experiment. Once upon a time, when Israel was not right wing or had the kind of government that it has today. He lived there for a few years, and then in 1970 he moved to Vermont, where he lived as made his living as a carpenter and did filmmaking. In I believe it was 1979, he did a film documentary for the local PBS affiliate in Burlington, on Eugene Victor Debs, the father of American socialism, and a man that has basically influence on any socialist worth their fiber. He was born on September 8, 1941, in Brooklyn, New York. His father, Levi Sanders, lived was in Poland in the late 1930s, and he fled Poland because he was Jewish and he knew what was happening to his fellow Jews in Germany and what would be happening to his fellow Jews in Poland if he remained. So he escaped and he emigrated to the United States and moved to Brooklyn, New York. Um, his father was a paintbrush salesman, and they made a they had a lower middle class living, uh, you know, as a paintbrush salesman. Uh, what's to say? As he was growing up, his mother was a homemaker. As he was growing up, uh, he and his brother Larry uh, got were politically became politically aware. Now, on a side note, about his brother Larry, Larry lives in the UK currently, and he moved there, I believe, in the early 1980s. And he's a social worker currently in England, and he's worked with the British Labour Party in the past, and he's currently working with the Green Party. He has ran for office for the House of Commons as a Green Party candidate, and he is known as the brother of America's most well-known socialist. And he has as a son, Levy, and his son, I believe, lives in New Hampshire. Anyway, when he moved to Vermont in 1970, he joined a small a small political party there called the Liberty Union Party, the Vermont Liberty Union Party. It was a basically a an independent left wing third party focused on anti-war issues, and it basically was the Vermont counterpart of the California Peace and Freedom Party that exists today. And it was part of what was in the 1972 presidential campaign, part of the People's Party, which the California Peace and Freedom Party was a part of, as well as the Vermont Liberty Union Party, were with the presidential campaign of Dr. Benjamin Spock, not to be confused with Mr. Spock on Star Trek. Anyway, where do I go from here? In 1977, I believe that was the year he ran for various offices with the Liberty Union Party between 1970 and 77. And since the Liberty Union Party is kind of, I'm glad they're leftists, but they're a little out there on some political issues. I'm not particularly a fan of Liberty Union as it exists in the year 2020. Bernie Sanders and Peter Diamond Stones got into a squabble. If you don't know who Peter Diamond Stone is, I'm going to tell you he's insignificant. But the late Peter Diamond Stone was an insignificant man, but he was a piece of crap because of his hatred and jealousy against Bernie Sanders. I had the misfortune of meeting Peter Diamond Stone once. Not impressed. Anyway, getting back to Bernie Sanders, he decided to go at it as an independent. And in early '81, there was a mayoral election in Vermont. He decided to run for office again, and then everybody's like, "Oh gosh, there's that Bernie Sanders running for office again." They didn't think he was going to win, and he beat the Democratic candidate and he beat the Republican candidate. And everybody thought it was a fluke, and he was going to be defeated in the next election or something. But nope. He kept on getting reelected between 1981 and '89. He kept on getting elected. He was known as America's first socialist mayor of a major city or of an American city since the days of Frank Zeiler of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And so as the mayor, he actually improved the local economy. He modernized the infrastructure of the city, improved services, developed progressive taxation that was friendly toward working people, not so friendly toward the business community, which that's a good thing. And he also engaged in symbolic campaigns for foreign policy above, such as support for the nuclear freeze movement, which urged the United States to stop manufacturing nuclear weapons. In solidarity with the situation in Central America, in Nicaragua, and down in El Salvador, opposing the reactionary movements down in El Salvador and Nicaragua, and being in solidarity with the Sandinistas and the FMLN in El Salvador and the Sandinistas in Nicaragua, and due to their literacy program and their health care and things of that nature. And for those who are kind of frown on Bernie Sanders about that, you have to understand the situation down in Central America during the 1980s. The Reagan administration were profoundly wrong on what they did, because the Reagan administration had a terrible foreign policy that sided with a lot of right-wing dictators. I mean, some things never change. 73% of the dictatorships around the world today supported by the United States. And dictatorships are bad, whether it's supported by the United States or actual dictatorships that opposes the United States. It's all bad. Any society that practices authoritarianism will be bad societies, in my opinion. And Bernie Sanders was notable for doing something that even a lot of liberals and progressives at that time were a little bit too nervous about, and that was to embrace and support LGBTQ equality, and that was considered controversial at that time. So the LGBTQ community wanted a parade in Burlington, and you had a lot of uptight, socially conservative people were like, "We don't want that to happen here." And on First Amendment grounds, and on just being pro equality. Bernie Sanders was like he's going to go and give the LGBTQ community their support. A politically unpopular issue, a significantly a politically an unpopular issue back in the 1980s. And the LGBTQ community has gone a long way since the 1980s, with still a long ways to go. But in 1989, Bernie Sanders stepped down for mayor and he decided to run for the U.S. House of Representatives in the district at large. Now, he's no stranger to running to the U.S. House of Representatives in Vermont. He's done it several times in his life. He was going to make another run at it again. Well, suffice to say, in 1990, Bernie Sanders got that seat in Vermont, and he became the first elected socialist since the days of Victor Berger of Wisconsin and Meyer London of New York City back in the 1920s. So Bernie Sanders made history being the first independent since the 1950s and the first socialist since the 1920s to be elected into the U.S. House of Representatives. And in the U.S. House of Representatives, he was a firebrand. And when people listened to Bernie Sanders and his speeches and the things that he were fighting for, and they were people who were nervous about what a socialist can mean, and we realized, well, gee, he sounds a lot like those FDR New Deal liberals that the Democratic Party been trying to move away from at the time. So Bernie Sanders was considered the most left-wing member of the U.S. House of Representatives. He got together with Democrats who were maybe not as far left as he is, but in his ballpark, and they founded what is called the Progressive Caucus, which still exists to this day. Um, in 2002, he made a principal stance against the Iraq War. He's been consistently opposed to pretty much every war the U.S. has been involved with, and has opposed sanctions against other nations. Have actually worked for peaceful solutions abroad. Bernie Sanders Bernie Sanders is to be noted for that. He voted against the Patriot Act, and he's been a consistent voice against war. And in 2006, he ran for the U.S. Senate and became the first elected socialist in the U.S. Senate, a a position he still resides in. Now, in 2016 and 2020, as we all know, Bernie Sanders ran in the Democratic primary, even though he was an independent. Ran in the Democratic primary to challenge Hillary Clinton and in the end of the day, challenge Joe Biden, along with about 19 other people running in the primaries in 2020. Of course, as we all know, Bernie Sanders was cheated in 2016 and in 2020 by the Democratic establishment. The DNC screwed him over. Hillary Clinton screwed him over, and Barack Obama screwed him over in 2020 when they urged all the other Democrats to drop out, with the exception of Elizabeth Warren and Joe Biden, to kind of destroy the Bernie Sanders campaign. And unfortunately, he is not the nominee whereby he should have been. But the thing about it is that Bernie Sanders has shifted the Overton window. He shifted the Overton window because Ronald Reagan, shifted the Overton window of the United States to the right. And unfortunately, that is where the United States still is. But within the Democratic Party, Bernie Sanders wanted to shift the Overton window within the Democratic Party away from the Bill Clinton model of Reaganizing the Democratic Party and forcing the Democratic Party to go back to its New Deal roots. It remains to be determined what's going to happen as far as the future of the Democratic Party. And if the Democratic Party has any sense, They will embrace the Bernie Sanders programs and the Bernie Sanders ideology of social democracy, and they will reject, wholeheartedly discard the Bill Clinton triangulation third way model, which actually has proven to be a failure. Trying to be diet Republicans always ends up making the Democratic Party worse off. I do not know why the Democratic Party don't get it, but suffice to say. But even as a presidential candidate in 2020, he shamed Walmart and shamed Amazon to raising their wages of their workers. So I tell people, I mean, before, when it was almost a foregone conclusion he was going to get the nomination, I said, look, Bernie Sanders is not even the nominee yet, and wages are going up for certain people in certain jobs. Imagine what he can do once he's president. Well, working with others. Well, let me say that working with others. It's not always the liberal lefts, and in fact, sometimes Bernie Sanders can reach out to conservatives such as Rand Paul and Mike of Rand Paul of Kentucky and Mike Lee of Utah. When there are issues where you realize that individuals across the spectrum realize what terrible things goes on the foreign policy level, such as selling arms to Saudi Arabia, which is a pipeline to Al Qaeda and other Islamist radicals over there that commits genocide in Yemen and actually ends up committing acts of terrorism against the West. I have said many times, and that Saudi Arabia is one of the biggest enablers of terrorism against the West, far more than Iran does against the West, because for some reason people think Iran is the worst country in the world. No fan of the country, but the terrorism that Iran commits against the West pales in comparison to what Saudi Arabia has been doing all these years. And so Bernie Sanders is able to get coalitions of people that he normally wouldn't agree with to get legislation done or raise an awareness. Now, Bernie Sanders is considered one of the most popular senators in the country, a well-liked man. Young millennials seem to really like him, and he's actually it's the reason why there are people like AOC, Alexandria Ocasio Cortez, Rashida Tlaib, people like Rokana, and in the U.S. Senate today, Ed Markey, and people who are kind of bringing a social democratic voice into the picture. Now, Bernie Sanders has his critics. The corporate Democrats hates his guts because he's actually actually just stirring shit up. And you know what? There's a rebel in me, and I like it when people stir shit up. And Bernie Sanders been upsetting the powers that be within the Democratic Party, and those powers that be, they're scum. The Bill Clinton, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer wing of the party are assholes as far as I'm concerned. And we need more people. We need more people like Bernie Sanders. We need more people like AOC. We need more people like Rashida Tlaib. We need more people like Rokana. We need more people. We need more people. We need more people like John Lewis. Except people like John Lewis should not go around endorsing corporate Democrats. That was my beef with the late John Lewis. We need more people like Tulsi Gabbard. We need more people. We need more people, that like the former Congressman Dennis Kucinich. These are the people we need. We need a whole lot less Dianne Feinsteins, a whole lot less Nancy Pelosi's, a whole lot less Bill and Hillary Clinton's, a whole lot less Barack Obama. And I am glad. And I work graveyard shift. I sleep better during the day, knowing that Bernie Sanders is in the U.S. Senate stirring things up. And yeah, I am disappointed that he ended up endorsing Hillary Clinton in 2016. And yeah, and not only am I mad at Bernie Sanders for endorsing Joe Biden, I'm mad at myself doing the same thing too this election year, because Donald Trump and Mike Pence are too dangerous to serve another term in this country. But anyway, but the thing about it is that Bernie Sanders is also hated by the hardcore white. They hate they think he's trying to turn the United States into North Korea or the People's Republic of China. And they have said, oh, look at Bernie Sanders. He spent his honeymoon with his second wife in Moscow back in 1988. Well, you know what happened in 1988? Even President Ronald Reagan had goodwill toward the Soviet Union because Mikhail Gorbachev came along and decided that the way the Soviets were doing things was bad for Russia and it was bad for the world. And he realized that communism was a mistake, and so communism started to wither away, and so Reagan was doing his goodwill thing abroad with Mikhail Gorbachev, not the biggest Reagan fan in the world, which is an understatement, but at least he started to negotiate toward peace, and so he started to become a stop clock, given the right time twice a day by the end of his second term. Well, around that same time, Bernie Sanders was in Moscow spending his honeymoon. He was also doing goodwill tours because he's always been interested in peace abroad, and the bullshit behind this whole Cold War thing between the United States and the Soviet Union, and that's what he was doing over there. He didn't do it out of any love over Soviet style Stalinism. Uh, Bernie Sanders made it clear that his model for economics includes places like Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Germany, Finland. You get the idea. Even England, because they have the UK, the National Health Service. Our closest allies. These countries are not communist, authoritarian, dystopian societies. They are mainstream democratic societies that respect human rights. Well, that's Bernie Sanders in a nutshell. A man that's of a human rights mindset, and I want to wish Senator Bernie Sanders a very, very, very happy birthday. If you like what you heard, you can press like or dislike, comment, subscribe. Please subscribe. If you have something you would like to share with the world and you got a platform, as a First Amendment absolutist, it is incumbent upon me to urge you to utilize it, because we're all the muckrakers of our time. And as I said, like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, and until next time. Yes, until next time. Peace, and Bernie Sanders for president in the year 2024. And no, I wasn't kidding when I said that. I really do mean it, because if he runs in the year 2024, I will I will back Bernie Sanders. Thank you and good day.